This week we said goodbye to Malcolm-Jamal Warner at just 54. So we're revisiting another moment of Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show, helping all of us to learn to make wise decisions.
In an episode called Independence Day in Season 1, teenage Theo gets his ear pierced and tries to hide it from his parents.
When Theo's father, Cliff Huxtable, finds out, a hilarious confrontation between father and son ensues.
Today, we honor Malcolm-Jamal Warner's legacy by reliving the laughs and the life lessons he gifted to us as Theo Huxtable in this episode at only 14 years old.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation of $5 or more via our website at axiom.app, Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
If you haven't gone back and watched the Cosby Show, there's going to be spoilers. So
yeah, like you should just have seen this episode. But if you haven't, don't even worry about it because we will break down the full episode in this discussion. But, you know, I was so shocked to hear we were actually in the gym and I happened to look at my phone and start seeing reports of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, you know, his tragic accident and drowning.
And she made a face and came over to me and I thought somebody I knew had died.
Because that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I knew him in a way because it just is like, you know, because like I grew up watching him. You know, as a kid, I remember racing home to see the Cosby Show on Thursday nights. And, you know, and it was a family event. My mama wanted to watch it too, you know, and it just was, you know, really tough news to hear. And, so I'm glad that we decided to do this. But just so you guys know, this is not the first Cosby Show episode that we have covered. We normally do not do television shows before you guys get to asking too much. But we decided, hey, we're going to cover the Cosby Show. And
yeah, we did Gordon Gartrell, right?
So, and what prompted that? It was Anthony Mackie going on, was it the Tonight Show?
I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Or Jimmy Kimmel, one of those.
The Tonight Show. I don't even know what he hosts, but he was on one of those late night shows.
And he was on there and he had the Gordon Gartrell shirt that, you know, Theo Huxtable made famous.
Yes. That video is available to members only, who are members on Patreon or YouTube, but I prefer Patreon, so, you know.
Yeah, and if you are a member and you're looking for it, all you do is you just go to your members link that's at axiom.app. You can just look in the feed of your members stuff on either YouTube or in Patreon, and it's posted there, and you'll be able to see the link to that video and all other members-only videos as well. But so if you're interested in that, become a member and you'll be able to have access to it. And probably, I think we are up to like close to 100 members only, if not more, members only videos. So it's a great way to support the channel. And we always really appreciate you guys for doing that. So let's get to this episode. All right, so when we first see this episode come on, Theo is sneaking into the house and Denise catches him up in the hallway upstairs, and he has spent the weekend at his best friend Cockroach's house, right?
Come on in my room, I gotta show you something.
Oh, you know I hate going in there.
And so he pulls Denise into his junky bedroom and he shows Denise this earring and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool.
This.
Theo, an earring!
But why are siblings like this? She was just so happy for him, knowing that what he done was wrong and he's going to get in trouble. Talking about, oh, it looks so good.
I had it done Friday after school.
That's great. It looks fantastic.
And you know,
yeah, I mean, because, you know, you want to be cool, but like nobody's bold enough to go against what they know the parents, you know, probably wouldn't like, except, hey, Theo is like, look, it's my body, my choice, and this is what I'm going to do.
If I want to put an earring in my ear, that's my business.
And then basically she notices, bro, your ear is red.
Wait, Theo, your ear looks red. Theo, it looks puffy.
How did he just get it done and it's already...
Well, because all right, so presumably it's like Sunday maybe. And he got it done on Friday. And, you know, in a couple days, it could be puffy and red, right?
Yeah.
Because he said, I got it done Friday night after school or whatever.
Yeah. And in Cockroach's garage.
Oh, where'd you have it done?
In Cockroach's garage.
And so it just automatically like gives you images of non-aseptic technique being
I had
used.
not remembered Cockroach sister's name. Tootsie.
Tootsie.
Tootsie's in junior high school.
But she does this on the side.
I didn't even know Cockroach had a sister. At least I didn't remember him having a sister. But it's hilarious. And for those of you who are too young or never watch reruns, Cockroach is actually played by
Carl
Payne, who later on would be one of the stars of the Martin TV show.
Yeah. Cole.
Or playing Cole on Martin. So when we saw who we remember as Cockroach later on show up on Martin's show, it was kind of like, whoa, you know.
Cockroach.
Yeah.
And that was a part of the joke that his name was Cockroach. So
It's okay. I cleaned it up before I left.
But so she goes into his junky room and talking about, oh, it looks bad. Oh, you did clean up, basically.
Yeah, but it still looks terrible.
Right. So then here comes the sister Vanessa. Vanessa is like, yeah, if Denise is in here, then something got to be up.
Yeah.
Right.
If you are in Theo's room, something is up.
But Vanessa is the stereotypical sassy sister, right? And that's like the tradition from the 70s on Good Times and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And the one I probably
What's Happening is
I
what
was just
I'm really
gonna say
thinking.
D off of What's Happening is probably like the sassiest sister who would always, be charging Raj money. She'll be like, give me some money, basically for, bribing him to not tell mama whatever he was getting into.
But I don't know if she stayed in that role that whole time.
D or Vanessa?
Vanessa.
No, Vanessa kind of got her own business and matured eventually. But, Vanessa is that age where, your older brother, you're going to be trying to tell on him and whatever. And because Vanessa, so the thing I loved about the Cosby Show and their 5 kids is that, you really get to see these sibling dynamics and how birth order matters, right? And so Vanessa and Theo are right next to each other in birth order, right? Because you have Sandra, who didn't even appear. She's the oldest daughter, who's supposed to have been, I think, away at Princeton in the first season. She's not even in the first season. So as far as we know, at this point, there are 4 kids. You have Denise, who appears to be the oldest, but she's the second child. Then you have Theo, who's just under Denise. And then you have Vanessa. And then, of course, little Rudy is the youngest. And these are the 4 kids in this first season of The Cosby Show that we're introduced to.
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? A one-time contribution of just $50 or more to Axiom Amnesia gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose.
It's easy. Step 1, send $50 via our website, axiom.app, where you can pay via card, Apple Pay, or you can pay directly via Cash App at $Axiom Amnesia. See the links below. Step 2, tell us your movie, email, the name you want to appear on screen, and what kind of deep dive you want. General, a specific character, a particular aspect of the film, etc. Step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors. Subject to availability and terms apply. And so it's just very funny. But and of course, with Theo being the only guy, one of the things he says is, what this earring says is that I'm old enough to make my own decisions.
That I'm old enough to make my own decision.
When people see this, they're gonna know that I'm a man.
When people see this, they gonna know they dealing with a man.
And so this is really, I think, I don't know how it would be today, because I always think about, all right, in 2025 or,
tattoos,
decades later,
right?
it would probably
Every kid
be tattooed.
has tattoos, but their parents letting them get it. It's crazy.
Because if you're younger, you're probably like, what's the big deal about an earring on a teenager at this point? It can close up
They're
all of
probably
these
like,
things.
what's the big deal about a tattoo?
Yeah, but back then, a tattoo at this age would be just totally unheard of. And then an earring would even be considered pretty risque.
And then you have to notice it's only in one ear. It's in his left ear. And that symbolizes that you're not gay. That's basically what it was.
That was the deal, right? Because it had to be in a certain ear and all of that.
If you got 2 earrings, it was just assumed that you were gay. It's weird times.
Yeah.
But I got my ear pierced when I was a kid.
Tell that story.
Well, no, my dad had just pierced my ear. He had
How
a
old
gun
were
and
you?
everything. I was probably, 2nd grade, 7-ish, 8.
I mean, that's pretty like,
And of course,
I
it
felt
was
like
my
that was,
birthstone. When I got it pierced, it was only in the left ear, right? And a
Yes.
stud.
Mhm.
So also, you really couldn't have them dangling earrings and stuff either.
People didn't really wear the dangling earrings.
Except, with the cross and all that stuff
Yeah.
later on. But he had a hoop.
But-
But so I did that, went to school, and basically we weren't allowed to have earrings at school.
Mhm.
That's the times we were in.
Yeah.
And we put Band-Aids over our ears.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how it was whenever you would see a guy with a Band-Aid over his ear, you knew that supposedly meant he had an earring. But
Yeah.
people would get hip to these things later.
Yeah, well, that's what
Yeah.
happened. And then they made us take it out and stuff.
Mhm.
And remember, you would put the straw. When brooms had actual straw, you would break the straw off the broom, burn the tips, and stick it through your ear.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's so old school that some of y'all don't even know about that.
The
I mean, when you
broom
think about how
itself
it's
might be
dirty,
so old school.
when you think about how freaking dirty that actually is, to do. But yeah, people would routinely do that sort of thing. So, but I was going to say
that's the stage for this. And this was like
80.
this like trailblazing
Mid-80s,
time where this is happening, right? So early, more toward even in the 90s, it was just kind of like, no, boys really don't get earrings. Now it's just so commonplace that it's not even a thought.
Right. And, as far as they would get hip to the idea of having a Band-Aid on your ear, what I was going to say, the guys, like, you ain't got no ear piercing and you done threw a Band-Aid
so
on
they
your ear to
faking.
try to act like,
Bruh.
imply, but, But anyway, yeah, so we would see guys in high school or whatever later on because this was happening. And I guess Theo was in high school by then. But like this was happening in high school. Like the fact that you were in second grade, like you had the coolest dad ever as far as kids would be concerned because, it wouldn't have happened that young. And I mean, maybe not even in high school at all. So I think that's just like an amazing story that like you and your brother had your ears pierced. Young.
Yeah, but it was only for a few days.
For a week.
That thing closed right on up.
Anyway, so this is like setting the stage. We get to see how these siblings interact. We see that Theo is cool with his older sister, right? Because he's like, look at this, Denise, and Denise is excited for him. But the younger sister, Vanessa, is the nuisance in this situation, right?
No, it's the stereotype that the younger kid is a snitch and stuff like that. And we were just talking with my sister, and she called me a snitch.
She did. Were you really a snitch?
No,
though?
I would take bribes though.
Yeah,
If you give me this, then I won't say anything.
As the eldest daughter, and see, this is something you and me and your sister have in common. We're both eldest daughters. It's like, you already know, like when I was up to quote unquote my version of no good when I was in high school, my brothers were a lot younger than me. So, I was doing a lot of babysitting. When I got the age where I could drive, I was like, let me just volunteer to take my brothers around or do things, or my mom would ask me to do stuff. And in exchange, it was like I had to go do it with the car, right? But she would like run them there and run do this and that. And so that allowed me to drive far more than I'm sure I would have been able to drive if it was just like, Mom, can I take the car for a spin? So I did lots of things with this vehicle with my younger brother or brothers in the car. And it was a small price. All I had to do was stop at McDonald's and get them fries. McDonald's fries was the best bribe for my younger brothers. They, but anyway.
Yeah. So Theo got his ear pierced and it's infected.
Yeah, that's basically where we are at this point in the story.
I think it's infected.
It is?
Yeah. Then we switch and we pan to the kitchen. Of course, the running joke in almost every Cosby Show episode is that Cliff is supposed to be watching what he's eating, but he's always trying to sneak and eat something that he wasn't supposed to be eating. So, of course, in this case, he's down in the kitchen, thinks he's by himself, and he gets caught by Claire while he's eating a big old fat piece of pie. And in the meantime, Denise comes down to the kitchen because Denise knows that Theo has said he is not going to tell the father.
If Dad finds out, my whole body's in danger.
And Denise knows, okay, for those of you who really don't know, Cliff Huxtable is a whole doctor. He's a physician.
Oh, yeah. So that's part of the thing.
You know, this is important. So she's like, tell Dad, show Dad, so he can assess whether or not your ear is infected.
You better let Dad take a look at it.
Let who look at it?
And of course, Theo was like, hey, you know, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm not going to tell him. So Denise, as the more responsible older sister, comes downstairs, but she's conflicted and she's like, hey, you know, what do you do?
In a personal relationship and the ethics of it, right?
Yeah.
So she swore to keep this secret, basically, with her brothers and not get him in trouble. But she sees that this could be dangerous and detrimental to his actual health.
Right.
Right. So then she goes to the parents and she basically presents them with this scenario.
But you know, keeping that secret might not be too good for that person.
Just like that, right? And then the parents have to tell her what to do ethically, right? And they're like, well, you have to tell, basically.
Yeah.
If I tell you, this person's going to hate me for the rest of my life.
But Denise, if it's for their own good, you have to do it.
And it's Claire. Claire is like, it's for their own good. You know?
Of course, after jokes of, well, are they in this house, in this family or not?
Is the person who has sworn to secrecy in this family?
Exactly. And so
because when you think of ethics, people consider that too. Do I know the person? Does it affect me directly? And we have these conversations all the time. Should I be in their business? Like when we say, should you tell that somebody, a significant other is cheating, right? We always talk about that.
So, yeah. So, you know, so we got all of these dynamics and things like that going on. And so, but I think that they have, Claire and Cliff have tried to raise their children to think through these things on their own, these different life lessons. And so what Denise doesn't just tell them, Denise says, okay, so that I'm not betraying their trust, I'm going to tell you without telling you, but I'll give you a clue.
I'm going to have it both ways.
Yes.
Wait, I can keep my part of the bargain, but you can figure it out for yourself.
And so she says earlobes. And then they're like, earlobes? And then, you know, Claire is very much the no-nonsense mother. She's like, what about earlobes?
Earlobes!
What about earlobes?
Come on now, give it to us, right? And she's like, does everyone in this house have healthy earlobes?
Have 2 healthy earlobes.
Now, what you got to know about Denise is like the eccentric, you know, kind of non-academic who is very opposite of her sister, who's at Princeton, right? At the time, At this point, her sister Sandra, right? And so she comes up with this clever way to tell without actually telling, right? Which, you know, honestly, in the world of ethics, she told. It don't matter to me if she told outright or not.
How these supposed smart folks didn't get it. Does everyone have healthy earlobes? Oh, let me go check people. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And so, of course, you know, when Denise leaves the room, you have Cliff, because Cliff is always, you know, he was always doing these, like, you know, innuendos with his wife.
Nasty things.
Yes. But the thing about it is that what Cosby and the cast purposely depicted was what they viewed as a healthy, you know, family where the mother and the father are together and they, you know, are still interested in one another, right? And there you have these children with all of their individual personalities and problems. So he was always quick to remind you that, hey, they are still romantic with one another. Even the relationships with the grandparents, you would see the grandparents be dancing and seem to still be very much in love with one another. So these are all like back context for what we're seeing in this. So, of course, he goes to kiss his wife and try to check out her earlobes, right? Because, you know, Cliff is nasty.
I love it when you do this.
Bruh. So the first thing Cliff does is he goes directly to Theo.
He knew where to look. Like they knew they weren't going to Vanessa. They weren't going to Rudy. He went directly to, and do you find it interesting that Claire didn't go too? They didn't both go. Cliff went to handle it.
Yeah.
You know, but
because he talked about healthy earlobes, like,
let me go see what this boy undid.
And then I think he dealt with the boy the most, right?
Yeah.
Mostly when it was something with
Problems
Theo.
with Theo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I could be misremembering. But so then when when he knows him knocking on the door, Theo puts on some headphones. Over ear headphones. They were rich.
Yeah, which was way less common because back then it was the headphone. You were lucky to have like a Walkman. I think Walkmans came out around that time with the, the much smaller, headphones or whatever, and they were expensive for the time. So like to have those over ear, like what Theo is wearing, yeah, that's fancy stuff for the day.
And then they had the funny joke where basically it's not even plugged in. So, but he's bobbing to the music and everything.
Trying to perpetrate. And
There's no music coming through the headset.
another thing is when Cliff comes in the room, he's basically singing and commenting on the room. He's like, just never gonna clean it up.
Well, never gonna clean it up.
The room is just dirty. And what I think is interesting is that they let him in their big old nice house have his space however he wanted to have it. It wasn't Claire coming in like, Cleo, you gonna clean this up today. It wasn't this harassment into forcing their children into doing things. And I think that was another thing that was interesting about this family that maybe seemed unrealistic if you were from a different type of parenting style.
Right, but I think it was kind of like, the kind of mantra that stuck, we let our kids make their own decisions. Is kind of what
and if you
want to
live in the junkie room, then whatever. And I don't know. Y'all go to the comments. If you had kids or have teenagers, what was it like for you? Did you when you had a junkie teenage room, did your mama come in or your daddy come in and make you clean it up? For me, when I was a kid, when I was younger, like, 5, 6, yes, we were forced, my sister and I, at the points when we shared a room and then when we had our individual room, they were like, you better clean that room up, pick up them toys off the floor. But I think that's part of what parents look at as the training on how you're supposed to take care of yourself after that. But then there's the point where you get to be a tween and teen where you just like, whatever. I remember my sister and I having just clothes in the floor, just like, I don't even know why your clothes would be like just so much, like you walking through a sea of clothes. And, I think, I don't know, maybe my parents were just busy with other kids. Like they weren't harassing us about that particular thing. But, yeah. And so, Theo's room looked a hot mess. But Cliff comes in, he already knows what the deal is. And he's like, let me see the ear, but he's not going to ask outright to see the ear.
Take the headset off, please.
Now?
And he's always going to mess with Theo in the process.
Is there any reason why you shouldn't take him off now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so Malcolm-Jamal Warner was pretty good in the way he was like, right now, just how he expressed this as a little kid.
Yeah. I mean,
trying
he's
to get
14
over
years old.
on his father, basically. That it's so ridiculous, right? It's so obvious that it's ridiculous what he's doing. He pulled that off well.
Yes.
You still bopping to what's left in your brain?
This is, to me, the funniest part of the scene. This is one of the most memorable parts that happens next. So Cliff is still not going to ask. So he goes and stands over Theo and he's trying to see this other ear that Theo deliberately has turned away from him. And so every time he moves, he leans one way. He stands up. He tries to look around Theo. Theo turns his head. When he looks up, Theo looks up. And, so that the ear will always be faced away from Cliff. And it is absolutely hilarious because he does smaller moves. Then they're more exaggerated. At one point.
Yeah, and then they're slow and it's fast.
Yes. And I was like, the timing was amazing. But the thing that is even more wonderful is the expression on Theo's face. Like he is terrified.
Yeah.
And he's like literally almost shaking.
Yeah. And then in this whole part, there are no words.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the physical acting and just letting the scene play out. Like you didn't need words for what was going on. All you need was the laughs.
And as a kid, you understood what it must have been like to know you're in trouble with your parents or to think you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But you have a problem that you don't want to disclose, right?
And it's just inevitable. You're going to get caught.
Yes. And the audience is like cackling, falling out laughing.
So Cliff just finds out Right.
But how does he find out? He's just finally like, Denise told you, right?
Denise told you, right?
Told me what?
He just fesses up. Theo can't hold it anymore. He knows that the gig is up or whatever. The gig, whatever. It's up. And he fesses up. And then Cliff, though, makes him spell it out. He's like, told me what? Basically, what did Denise tell me? And he's like, about this. And he shows the earring.
About this.
Is that a decal?
And Cliff's got to make a couple jokes. And,
Yeah,
then he
but
says, I'm going to fix your ear.
right, but Theo didn't tell him, right? That's what he was fishing for. He didn't say, I got an earring, you know what I'm saying? And it's infected. He had to pull that out of him. He just showed him this. Well, you're still not communicating the thing. And I think that's part of the lesson there.
Yes.
Right? So then he was like, have you been tagged by the Wildlife Society?
That's
and he has
funny.
these other jokes.
Have you been tagged by the Wildlife Society?
And then he basically explains it in great detail.
It's an earring, Dad. There's a hole through my ear, and Denise says it might be infected.
Yes. And he's like, Denise thinks that it's, infected. And then the father looks at it. Theo winces because it's painful when he touches it. And he's like, she's right.
Well, she's right. It is infected.
Yeah. And then he's just like, come on, basically.
He's like, well, where are we going? Because
Come on.
What are you gonna do to me?
you still, you're afraid, right? Because you're in trouble. Like, is the beating coming first? Is the punishment coming first? And he's like, I'm going to clean your ear up. And then Theo's like, and then what? Were you expecting a punishment? And he's like, should I? And Cliff is like, yes.
You expecting some sort of punishment?
Shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Because what is going to happen is going to happen. Although I did think maybe there was a little bit of an opportunity for, look, you should have learned your lesson because your ear is infected and it's hurting. And now I'm about to have to pull this earring out of this infected ear.
But that
ain't
don't
gonna
hurt
feel
enough.
good.
It ain't, you know what I'm saying? If it hurted enough, then he would have went to him.
Well, go
So
to the
you
comments.
need further punishment.
What's the proper punishment for a teen who has gone out and gotten their ear pierced against your wishes as a parent? Or do you not have a problem with it all and feel like, hey, their body, they can just use whatever they want to do?
On the way out, Bill Cosby hit his face on that door frame.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Bruh.
So they get down to Cliff's office, right? Which is downstairs in their house, which I think is very interesting because in the 80s, you had a couple of physician dads on these sitcoms. Well, another one was Mike Seaver's father on the show Growing Pains, played by Alan Thicke. And he was a psychiatrist, though, who had his office in the home. So the interesting aspect here is that you have a parent, parents who have careers, but a parent who is always pretty much in the home, right? Cliff is around the house all the time because Cliff's office is downstairs. And the only time he's got to leave is to deliver babies. So he sees patients downstairs. And Theo doesn't want to be down there, though. He's like, this is for pregnant women.
Because this place is for pregnant women.
Do we have to be down here? There's nobody else down there. Like, what's your deal?
But basically, he started probing him about the earring, and he was like, so why did you do it?
Why'd you do it?
Theo says it's a sign of independence.
It's sort of a sign of independence.
And then Cliff is just like, who's the girl?
Who's the girl?
And then he names this girl, and then
Eunice,
and say that she thought I would look good with an earring, basically. Bruh, come on.
But what I love is that the father already knew. Like, there's all of these things where as a teen, as a young person, you think that the older people have never been there, that they don't understand, that, you really think that. But Cliff knew instantly that it was about a girl. It wasn't even about regular peer pressure.
Yeah.
It was, a girl then said something, he's liking a girl, or this ridiculous thing is to impress a girl.
Yeah, and she thought it would look good, but now you're going to have half a head because
Yeah, I know, right? The jokes keep coming.
Now you could wind up with half a head.
But Cliff also says something else interesting. He said, do you love her?
Do you love her?
Well, I like her a lot.
And Theo was like, I like her.
Why is that interesting?
I think it's interesting because there's an implication there that when you're making big, giant gestures, you need to have big, giant feelings. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this for a girl you got a little crush on? Like, to me, that's the other implied lesson there. And, you know, maybe Theo learned that a little bit later, but you get what I'm saying. Because later on, he, you know, was with Justine, if you remember the show. But that's, you know, that's definitely part of the lesson. You don't even love this girl, and you over here poking holes in your body to impress her. A girl you admittedly just like.
In Cockroach Basement by his middle school sister.
In his garage, in his dirty, dusty garage or whatever. So yeah. For those of you who don't know, you should visit axiom.app. And you'll be able to look at all of the recent videos across all of our channels. And I'm putting that on the screen right now just so y'all can see it and see what it looks like. Because there are a ton of videos that are over there. And also, I think that there are at least about 100 exclusive videos that are available for our Patreon members and our YouTube members. So, you know, if you're interested in more of our content, as I've seen many of you binge watching, be sure to check those things out. And so we find out that really the punishment is not like you're going to be on punishment and restriction or whatever. It's that the grandfather is coming.
Dad, not grandpa.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So he's about to get that multi-generational judgment / punishment from, you know, his grandfather.
But he basically compared him to the National Enquirer.
Your grandfather, you know, is like the National Enquirer.
And if you don't know, that's a tabloid. And if you don't know what that is, just think of whatever gossip y'all listen to online, and that's made up stuff.
Basically, in a printed form in the checkout lines of all of the.
That was the only place you got these types of stories back in the day. Was these tabloids. Now it's just everywhere.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's more commonplace. Even the regular news, you know, pushes gossipy type of mess.
Yeah, but they used to have some outrageous stories too in the National Enquirer. I think it was probably, I don't know, but they were kind of like positioned as real, so people believed them. I was going to compare it to the Onion, but not even like that.
No. The National Enquirer would tell you stories about famous people, especially. But then they'd also have stories like alien stuff. And, you know, just wild stories. One of them I remember is like Michael Jackson sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber. Like they always loved to talk about Michael Jackson back in the day and any other celebrity.
Yeah.
And back then there were far fewer celebrities than there are today. Like today you got this whole multiple levels of celebrities.
There's celebrities that stars, other people you know don't even know.
Yeah. So, you know, that is just context for what the time and what it meant when he said the untold story.
He loves to hear the untold story.
Because that was often the way that the National Enquirer or the Star magazine.
Or maybe we're thinking of older TMZ.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe at the time, because we were just talking about that the other day when TMZ first came out, they were not viewed with any level of credibility. It was like, oh, you're just gossiping. You're wrong in the way you're like a National Enquirer, just pushing stuff that is not accurate. But TMZ really built their brand over the years because these days they are like Johnny on the spot with the celebrity news or something happening.
Especially with a death. If there's a death,
if they say somebody is dead, that person is dead. These days. So yeah, because I mean, weren't they one of the first ones to report Michael Jackson?
I think it was Michael Jackson that did it for him. Yeah.
So, you know, anyway,
Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston.
Probably both
of
them. But Harvey Levin, who is, I guess he's the owner or the guy who started the business or whatever, is also an attorney. And I think that he did a really good job of making TMZ become a reliable source of gossip, if that makes any sense. Because, I mean, you're still not talking about stuff that's necessarily meaningful to the world, but you do at least try to make sure that it's accurate and whatever. So, but yeah, so that's what he meant. So now we get to see what's going to happen when Granddaddy shows up.
Hello.
So when the grandfather comes, Cliff is all too happy to march Theo into the living room like a death march theme and whatever. And then later Theo tries to sneak out, and then he's like, hey, where you going or whatever. And he greets both his grandmother and his grandfather. And Rudy just busts him out, the youngest daughter, Rudy. She's just like, what happened to your ear?
What happened to your ear?
Now, mind you, he's been trying to keep this secret, but it's always the kid who notices and just says something, right?
Into a door.
I do that sometimes myself.
And so Theo is just like, don't you have to go in and help mom in the kitchen? So the room is cleared of the women, right? But the other girls have gone in with their mother, Claire, to the kitchen. And so it was only grandmother and Rudy that were in the living room with them to begin with. Now they've been dismissed to the kitchen so that they can have this man-to-man talk between the 3 generations of Huxtable men, right?
What really happened to your ears, son?
And so Theo first insists to his grandfather that he walked into a door and that's what happened to his ear.
I walked into a door.
Oh, come on.
But the grandfather plays this interesting role as kind of like a mediator, right?
Oh, I have no intention of coming down hard on the boy.
And he's like, young men in love will just do crazy things.
Young men in love will do crazy things.
Then we find out that when Cliff was 15,
When your father was 15, my dad,
he went and put a conch in his hair.
his people used to straighten their hair with a solution called concholine.
And it fell.
And it went bald.
His hair fell out, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But what happened?
Burned all my hair.
It was a homemade conch at that, right? Because he couldn't afford to buy the chemicals or whatever needed. So they made up their own version and he went bald as a result of it. Like all his hair fell out. And but Cliff is a little upset because he's like, I'm not interested in Theo feeling better about his crazy decision.
I'm feeling better, okay?
Sit down.
I wanted you to come and pile on too. And that's not what happens from the grandfather's perspective. And the thing that we are left to understand as, at the time, a child watching the show, as adults reminding them to maybe not be as hard on their children because what were you doing at this same age, is just that that we've all been there.
Yeah.
Right?
But see, the thing too, when the grandparents showed up, they had
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not of the yep generation.
Vanessa basically not saying ma'am to the grandmother, right?
What do you say to your grandmother?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's better.
And then basically Cliff comes and he does the same thing and he's like, yup. And then, he's giving a look, right? And then, then he has to say yes, ma'am, right?
To his mother, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, he still rolls his eyes and stuff, but it's showing that, the customs and everything changes over time.
Yes.
And maybe not be so hard on people. And yeah, that's just how and respect other people's wishes too at the same time. Like he doesn't feel he should have to do that, but because his parents insist, he does it because how much does it really hurt him?
Right. And that's part of the respect. And it's so crazy because we recently had, kind of the whole intergenerational or preference and cultural differences, the respect conversation personally. And, that is it. It's like if it doesn't hurt you and this is what the expectation is, this is what how you were raised and what you were taught to do. What's wrong with complying with that? It's not, this is the expectation. It's fine. And it doesn't mean you have to teach your own children to do that, which clearly Cliff did not. And Claire did not, but they still respected the grandmother. And even when the grandmother corrected Vanessa, the granddaughter, she's learning that just because this is how my parents were doesn't mean this is how my grandparents are, and that there may be different rules of respect. And I've got to figure out how to walk the line of compliance to both, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I really love that. Also, it talks about basically how the difference between a grandparent and child relationship, a grandparent-grandchild relationship versus a parent-child, right? Cliff in this episode is talking about how his parents are not the parents he grew up with when they're being a grandparent.
And the thing was, like, when he was trying to tell his daddy, basically to pile on to Theo, then the grandfather, he was trying to stop him. The grandfather's like, man, get out the way, sit down. Mm-hmm. I'm in charge here. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So,
I'm feeling better, okay?
Sit down.
So it shows you the hierarchy and the respect for it. Not, oh, I'm grown, so I don't have to listen to my daddy anymore.
Exactly.
And Cliff was well grown.
Yeah. You know, he was probably late 40s, almost 50 by the time that this is going on. And so then, but, you know, regarding the conversation about the hair getting burned off, and Theo is like, well, whatever happened to that girl? And it was Claire, right? So what else is this reinforcing? It's reinforcing the idea that, all right, basically, you don't be all in them streets like that. This is their culture of their family that they're reinforcing. And more broadly, this is the culture that Bill Cosby would have liked to see be the image of Black families and Black people, right?
Yeah.
Is that, you know, you get with somebody, you know, the girl you had a crush on in elementary or high school turns out to be your wife.
Right. You just assault her.
Shut up. You know, but like, yeah. And that's the hard part about it, is that the values that were instilled in the show, like, we got to get back to the question of, can you separate the art from the artist? Because
most definitely,
because it's undeniably amazing the things that this show brought to
that's what
the
acting
culture.
is, right? He's portraying a different person or a different character than he himself is, right?
Yeah.
And the purpose of the show too, trying to give some image of Black folks into mainstream America.
It was
culture.
huge positive PR.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was watching an interview about with Malcolm-Jamal Warner, where he was talking. I think one of the things I loved about him is he was always kind of blackety black. He was always conscious of the image of Black people, Black Americans, and how we had been portrayed, and how he never wanted to besmirch the image. And I'm sure that definitely was instilled in him by his mother. But even more so, just interacting with somebody like Bill Cosby, who was also very conscious of that in the stuff that he put out.
Yeah. So then we get into like how kids see their parents too, because Theo, when he hears the story, he's like, you burned all your hair off your head for mom.
Yeah.
You burned all the hair off your head for mom.
Yeah. And then what is it? First thing he goes to do, run to the kitchen to be like, Mom.
Oh my gosh.
Like, because he's going to spread the word, because in the moments leading up, Cliff had him believing that he was the only one who ever did anything stupid. And sometimes that's just, I don't know, maybe that's just the hypocrisy of being human. Sometimes it's easy for parents or anybody else who is older to look at a young person and judge in a way that makes that young person feel very isolated and alone, like they're the only ones who ever made these types of mistakes.
And then his father forces him to allow Theo to go and tell, because he's trying to.
Right. The granddaddy is like, yeah.
He's trying to embarrass Cliff.
And then when they get into the kitchen, Cliff is like, there will come a time when you need some money.
You're going to need some money.
So in other words, if you tell this, you're going to have trouble from me. So what does quick thinking Theo do? He pulls a Denise from earlier, and he's like, I'm going to tell on the technicality, and says, Granddaddy, you tell him.
Would you tell him?
It would be my pleasure.
And then I didn't tell him.
And then
Yeah.
And then he did a technicality too, right? He was like, I'm not going to name anybody.
Not naming any names.
Yeah, So the grandfather, he also runs interference in telling Claire that the secret is that Theo has gotten an earring.
He had his ear pierced.
I'll kill him.
But now, hold on now.
And she's like, I'm gonna kill him. And he's like, no.
Boy made a mistake. In that respect, he's a lot like his father.
And then, so then they all laugh and talk about the stupid things that the Huxtable men have done for women. Now, we're left to believe the grandfather never did anything stupid until he's like, when I found out about Cliff burning his hair out, I was always understanding.
But I was patient and understanding.
Lies, all lies. And the grandmother is the one who steps forward and is like, when you found out Clifton burned out all his hair, you were not understanding. Don't even try to play like that.
You were not very understanding.
Then she also busts him out and she's like, but what about the tattoo?
That he had my name tattooed across his chest.
And we like, tattoo. So we come to find out that the grandfather was so interested in a woman who turns out to be the grandmother that he got a
course.
tattoo of her name on his chest in his teens.
The wrong name.
And it was a misspelled name.
Yeah.
Until I saw my name was misspelled.
Yeah.
Who coincidentally turned out to be the name of maybe one of her rivals or whatever.
Yeah, that's very
a girl.
weird. But
Yeah, so she insisted that he get this tattoo removed up off his chest.
And that left a scar on his chest.
But the funny part is that Cliff is like, you told me you got that scar in World War II
Exactly.
fighting off Nazi panzers.
That you got that scar in World War II.
Which is crazy.
Like, wait,
you
what?
find out that it has come full circle. They all have done something stupid. But again, it's not only singly reinforced with Cliff and Claire, it's also reinforced with the grandparents.
Yeah.
They've been together a long time, and this is what they're feeding their children,
Yeah.
at least, is the culture is you get you with a woman and
But
you settle
Theo
on
didn't
down.
get with Eunice.
Theo did not get with Eunice. Well, what Theo was supposed to realize is Eunice wasn't the one. Number one, because he never, would the grandfather said in love,
Yeah.
clearly he wasn't in love, right? Whereas the argument could be made, even though they were all young, that Cliff was in love with Claire, and the grandfather was in love with the grandmother
Yeah.
when they met at these young ages. Now, a lot of this is pie in the sky, unrealistic
Of
stuff,
course,
because
it
that
all
ain't how the
is.
world works.
Exactly, but that was a common story that
Mhm.
it's still to this day. It's like, oh, they were all at least high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and they go and show you some flashbacks of when they were in college together. And I'm like, come on.
And it's like you just want to, I think from a, film perspective and TV here,
Yeah.
that you just want to prove that they had history, because history is supposed to mean something, right?
Yeah.
Which I think it does. But, these people have been together most of their lives, even when they're 30. You know what I'm saying? Even when they're 40.
Yeah, their entire adult lives.
Yes.
Plus some.
Plus
That's
some.
crazy.
And so that's a different level of knowing somebody and experience. This ain't I met at the club 6 months ago. So all of these decisions to be with people and to be married and to choose to be together for life, if you will, are decisions that are deliberate. If you're looking at what the culture is pushing in these shows, it's deliberate. It's nothing fast. Years have been put into building this, right? So I just think that that's all part of all part of it. But then when their children start to live their lives and live a little differently, it creates a problem with that generation gap. And, we see that later when Denise goes off and I think she elopes and comes back with a husband and all that. And, and a stepdaughter and, just all of these things that are not the traditional norm that test the bonds and the way things, that force the family to change in some way. So, but this was a funny episode and I loved it. I thought it was hilarious,
Yeah, it started off as an earring. In your typical sitcoms, you have the issue that we were presented at the beginning, and then there's the resolution to it, sort of. But it really wasn't about the earring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was about what? What do you think it was about in the end?
Well, about the stupid things that kids do for girls, basically. But I guess more of a love aspect of it. But that is generational. Everybody does these crazy things.
And I think it's about the relationships, and it's about not just the romantic ones. I'm talking about with your family.
Welcome to the club.
The three Huxtable men.
It's about that. Hopefully you've developed a relationship where the child is not so afraid to come to you when things are wrong, when there's a problem. Luckily, Theo had a sister, because who knows, he could have wound up with a pretty bad infection in his ear. Probably nothing would have happened. But, what if he wound up having to have part of his earlobe amputated or something, because of the infection?
Yeah, but all of them, something happened to them that was bad, right? So you had to get some laser removal tattoo in the 80s, mate.
No.
Even way before were they even removing tattoos? I was thinking about the 80s because the show's in the 80s.
They probably had to cut it off. Ain't no laser removal. Not even the 80s.
Maybe it would have been chemical, some
Think
sort of
about
chemical.
This. Cliff was probably born
He mentioned Cliff in the 40s.
In the 40s. So, you know, this happened before the 40s. So the 30s, the 30s or the 40s, you talking about laser? Nah, they ain't doing nothing with lasers. They took a scalpel and they just cut the tattoo off, and you have a scar
they probably
there.
burnt it off with some chemical.
Or yeah, I know, right? Did something. But it ain't gonna be regular beautiful skin after that, which is why he had to tell the lie on covering it up.
Scar chest, skinhead, and hole in the lobe.
But you know, when I think about Malcolm-Jamal Warner and what his character represented, you know, with him, with his age, like being, you know, he's a few years older than I am. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is so cool to me that there are young characters on TV that I can relate to. And then I remember back then he was in like Teen Beat and all of the magazines that used to be out where, you know, you get a little, you can pull the picture off. He was like a little heartthrob for, you know, for the little teens and tweens. You know, he was up there with like New Edition and the guys from there, because it was very cool that we had people who were within a reasonable age range that we could look at and think, oh, I have my little crush on Malcolm-Jamal Warner or whatever, you know. So you feel like you grew up with these people, and it's just tough when, you know, when they're gone.
Dang, I done forgot. I just seen a video where he was dancing in some video with, it may have been Video Store or something. Somehow Donnie Simpson was involved.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was some, what? Do you remember the song?
I don't remember the song, but it was a rapper.
Yeah, but then it was like 86.
Those
Oh, Houdini.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was Houdini.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, he was in the video with them. So I thought that was cool, and he was dancing there. But he was very much an it guy from the point he was Theo. Now, later on, he transitioned to different things, but the Cosby Show was such a big show, not just for Black people, but like everybody was watching the Cosby Show. And he was a huge star for the time. And if you're really young and you just can't even imagine that, like he was big. He was a big deal. So, you know, rest in peace to him. And just, I love the parts of all of these stories that he helped us see as kids. And these life lessons were just, you know, ones that I look back on with fondness. And I hadn't seen this episode in a long time, and it was very funny. And just so you guys know, we're actually doing another episode that should probably be up on our other channel that I will make sure is linked in the description, so that you can watch that, where we talk about a different episode just in, you know, memoriam.
If you made it this far, type on purpose in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now.